Instead of using the AI Builder in Power Automate Cloud, we can use the Azure AI Foundry models. Here we can choose between a lot of nice models such as GPT, DeepSeek, Grok and Mistral. Let me show you how easy it is to set up. First, you need to navigate to portal.azure.com and log in. Then you go up to search and search for Azure AI Foundry and pick that one. Here we need to create a resource group. So I click on create a resource. A resource group is just a collection of resources that share the same lifecycle permissions and policy. Let's take it one step at a time. We will need to pick a subscription. I'll just pick my current Azure subscription. And we will also create a resource group. Feel free to use one of your existing ones, but since this is a demo, I want to create a new. So I say create new, and then we give it a name. Let's give it a name that follows the Azure best practices. So I say RG resource group, and let's give it a name. This will be the AI platform because we are going to use the AI features. The environment, that is a demo, and I will use the West Europe. So I'll say WEU, and then I click OK. Feel free to name it like you want. I'll also want to give this resource a name. And here I want to say AI Foundry, LLM, demo, and again, Western EU. So here in the region, I'll click the drop down and I will take the West Europe because that's where I live. So go pick that one. We also have a project down here. A project is like a container inside your AI Foundry. And then here we can group models, set permissions, manage limits, and do logging. So please do not name that one first project. We want to create a name so it's easy to see what this project does, especially when we want to move ahead. So I say this is a project, AI Foundry, demo. And then I hit next. Here in the network, I can see who can send API calls to my model. Should I allow the entire internet? Or should I restrict it so only certain IP addresses or ranges can access it? And don't worry, there will of course be a key on it, so it's not like it will just be wide open. So I'll choose the entire internet, and that's also because it requires the least setup. Then I click next. Again, here in identity, I can choose a system assigned identity. Then Azure creates it automatically for us, so we can securely connect to other Azure services without password secrets, etc. Here we will just leave it. Encryption. Our data is encrypted automatically. That's one of the benefits by using Azure. If you want more control, we can also choose to add our own encryption key. I'll click next. Tags. Here we have labels, so we can easily find the resources in Azure. I recommend just have a few basic ones. I will say ENV for environment. This will be a demo. And who is the owner? That is Jensen. Org, which is me. That's it. And we can click next. Then our resource is ready. If I want to create it, I simply just click create here, and this will usually take 2 minutes, so just have patience. That's it. Our deployment is complete. Then we can go to the resource. Here we have the overview, and before we can start making these API requests, we need to set up and deploy models. We will do that in the Azure AI Foundry portal, so go click that one. This will open up the AI Foundry portal. First, here we are on the overview page. We have our API key. We have some documentation for the APIs. Also have some tutorials here and documentation. What you want to do first is to click the model catalog. Here we can choose between a lot of models from different vendors. What they have in common is that they are hosted here in the Azure. This means that we can have the data security by Microsoft. So now DeepSeek is hosted here with Microsoft and not with a Chinese company. This is great. First of all, we need to find a model. I can choose these leaderboards. Here I can also browse the leaderboards. We can have different models. We can see the quality, the safety, the cost, throughput. We can also browse these leaderboards, and down here we can see that we have 90 different models. Let's set up 2 models today. We will set up GPT-4o as a basic one, and then we will also look at the Grok 3 from Elon Musk or from the X. You can use DeepSeek or whatever you prefer. We also have the ones from Meta and Mistral. So I could scroll down here and find the GPT-4o. As you can see, we have a lot here. Or I can go up here and simply just search for GPT-4o. Here we have the Omni model, and we have a lot of other ones. We take just the default here. We can use this model, but before we do that, we have some documentation down here, and I can also see the pricing over to the right. If I go click that one, then we have the pricing. I can scroll down. Let me scroll down and find GPT-4o. Here we have it. We can see that the newest one cost $2.5. Let me explain this. This is per 1 million token. 1 million token is approximately 750,000 words. So this is a lot. So these are the things that we send to the API that cost 2.5 per 750,000 words. And when we get information back from the API, that is the response, that costs a little more, $10. But 1 million tokens is a lot. Let us close the pricing again and say we want to use this model. Here we can give it a name. I'll just leave it with GPT-4o, as this is the model's name. I can also choose deployment type. This is where I want my data to be. If I choose the global standard, here I get fast global access and little to actually no setup. I can also choose the data zone standard. Here our data is processed within our region, for example, the European Union. And I can also choose standard. That is similar to global, but it's just stay in our selected Azure region. Let's just go with global, as this require no setup. What I can do here is to click customize. Here I can take a decision. Do I want to have this model upgraded once a new version becomes available? Fine, that is actually really nice. I can also set a rate limit. Here we can set a rate limit for number of requests and actually number of tokens sent. This is fine as well. I also have a content filter. Here we keep our deployment safe, for example, harmful or inappropriate content, violence, hate, self-harm, everything we don't want to see in our responses. We can have it blocked by this content filter. Let's just leave it by default. Then we can hit deploy. Now our model is deployed. We can see the API documentation over here. And what I want to do now is to open it in Playground so we can play a little with it before we choose to deploy it. So what you can do is either click open in Playground here, or you can click Playgrounds over here and say to try the chat Playground. Here you should see your model. And if I click this drop down, you will also see that this is the only model that we will have at the moment. We will add another model later in this video. So this is nice. Here we can give the model instructions and context. I can also choose to have it generated with Copilot down here. Right now you can see the default is you are an AI assistant that helps people find information. Let's create a classification assistant. This one should look at emails to our support and classify them in 3 groups: complaint, inquiry, or praise. This is like a normal one. This is using natural language processing. So let's give it a simple prompt. You are a classification assistant. Your task is to read an email and determine which of the following categories is best fits: complaint, inquiry, or praise. Only return the category name. This is to say, I only want one of these 3 words. I don't want an explanation, and I also do not explain your choice. I just want that little word. What I can do here when I'm satisfied with it is to press apply changes. Yes, we update the system message, and now this is the message that our model will create answers from. Let's go try to test it. So down here I can say something like, hello, I'm disappointed with the delay in delivery. This is the second time it has happened like this. And then you see that this is a complaint. Our model correctly categorizes this as a complaint. Let's move a little bit further. We can also add data. This is, we can build RAG. So here we can add a data source that could be Azure Blob, a website, upload files, and a few other options. Let's not do it here, but it would be fine to add some context about ourselves here in the add data. Then we have the parameters. We have them down here. So let's look at what these does, and let us also choose which we should include and what value we should give them. So the past message included. We set this to 1. We set this to 1 because each email from our customers are independent. We don't want the AI to use previous inputs or answers, and this will give us more clean and predictable results. If we hide this, let's say we set it to 10, then it will include the last 10 user responses, as you can see here. So you will see, if we set it to 10, it will use 5 user queries and the 5 last system responses. We don't want to do that. Each email is independent. Then I can also say, this is the max response. So how long should the answer from the model be? Since this is only 1 word, let's just set it to 10. That is actually also too much, but there's no reason to have it bigger. The temperature. So how much creative freedom, how much randomness do we want to give the answer? We want to have it completely strict. So if I choose a low temperature, this means that the model will choose the most likely word. If I increase the temperature all the way up to 1, then it will answer more freely and have more creativity. We don't want that here, since we just want to classify it. I can set the temperature to 0. Then I can also have the top P. Since we set the temperature to 0, this doesn't matter. But here we can tell the model how many possible words the AI should pick from. But again, this is it will not use this value. Then we have the stop sequence. So here we can say, for example, after a word or a symbol, then it should stop, but we don't need it here because we only have a 1-word response. Then we have the frequency penalty. This one reduces the repeated words in longer text, but again, we don't need it here because the answer is only 1 word. Then we have the presence penalty. Here it stops the AI from using new ideas or topics. Again, we don't need it. We just have 3 categories and they should always be allowed. So this is it. These are the settings that we will go with. We changed a little bit since we tested the model. Feel free to change it again. Let's do like this and let's give it 3 prompts. So we could have a hello, I am disappointed. Complaint, that is fine. And then we can say hi. Oh, I would like to know when my order is delivered. Give me an update. This is an inquiry. I can choose to clear the context here, but this should be fine. And then you can say, thank you for the fast delivery and great service. Everything worked well. Oh, that was a spelling mistake here. But here you see that our model is able to categorize these things really well. So this was the first model. We can also choose to deploy another model, so we can switch between them if we want that. To do so, we have a few options. I can go up here to create a new deployment, or I can again go to the model catalog. Here we just need to go back to the models. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That will really help me a lot and make my channel go out to more so I can make more videos. Thank you. And then I go down to collections. If I click here, I can see that the models, I can group them into categories so they're easier to find. For example, Meta, Mistral, or let's choose XAI today. And we will go with the Grok 3 Mini. Since we only need to do email classification, we just choose a fast model, which is cheap. And this is great enough for email classification in fact, more than great. Let's go click that. This looks like the one from before. You can also check the pricing. We choose to use this model. We agree and proceed. Again, here we can choose the deployment type. We can also give it another name and customize it. Let's just go with the default settings. Here we can open it in Playground. And once we do that, we can see that GPT-4o opens up. But now we have the Grok 3 Mini. If I click that, you will see that this give the model instructions. The system prompt is copied to here, so we can test it. I can also see, if I go to parameters, that we have a few less parameters. We only have 3 to choose from here. The max completion tokens, how many tokens do we want to allow? Let's take 100, that is the minimum. The temperature, the lowest one is 0.01. So let's do like this. The top P doesn't really matter. So I'll just do like this, but we will not include it. Let's go over here and let's see what's happening and why we might want to change a parameter. Because if I do this, how do I return an item? Then this model is a chain of thought. This means that it actually is able to reason with itself. And then you can see that the limit of 100 characters is reached. Don't worry, this is so cheap. But then that means that we want to increase this to, for example, 2000. And that is because both the chain of thought summary, the chain of thought is included, and our word. So let's copy it here. Let's do a new one and let's try. Now you will see that the one it returns is the inquiry. This one is also included in the response. We will not use it, and we will be able to isolate this in the JSON response. With that said, now we're going to implement these 2 models in solutions. First, I recommend that you always go to, for example, Postman. Here we can test the APIs, especially if this is your first time. Let's set both models up so we can access them through a REST API call. Again, really straightforward. We will start by using the GPT-4o, and then we will use the grok. So this is Postman. If you want to use Postman, it's completely free. Just go to postman.com, set up a free account, log in, and you will get here. We'll create a workspace. A workspace is, as it says, a workspace where we can do API testing related to a certain topic, which is our demo here. So you go up to workspace, and then you say create workspace. This will just be a blank workspace. I click next. Then we can give it a name. I will call this one AI Foundry Demo API calls or something like that. And I'll choose to create it. Then to test the GPT-4o, I go up here to new and say HTTP. First of all these details you can find in the documentation. Now I'll just give it to you because then we can speed things a little bit up. The method is post. Here we need to give some data to the model, so I set it to post. Then we need an endpoint or a URL. This is to tell where to send our request to, which in this case is to the Azure AI Foundry. So if I go back to my model here, the easiest thing is to go up to View Code. And if you have one of the OpenAI models, I think it's easier to scroll down, then you can see that this is the endpoint. Simply just copy it, go back here and say Control V to paste it in. Then we need a few headers. So I go up here. The first thing we need is an API key to authenticate that this is actually us. And you should not share this. I shared in this video, but I will delete this AI Foundry resource after the video before it gets published, but never share this. To find the API key, you go up here, click the key authentication and scroll all the way down. Here it is. I can choose to view it or simply just copy it. Let's go back here and paste it in. Then I also need to say, well, this comes in a JSON format. And what you say here is to pick the content type and pick the application JSON, write it or choose the dropdown. Then we also need to say, what do we want to send to the model? Here we need a body. So I go to body and pick raw, and this should be in a JSON format. That's because that is what the API accepts. Here I have a JSON body. If I go down here, I paste it in. So remember that even though it could appear that in the playground that we set all of this up, this was just to test. If I need to include, for example, the max tokens, let me go back and show you here. We set that down here. Then you need to set it. And there's also a few of the other ones which we choose not to include, but I included. Actually, we will do this. So the temperature is 0, and then the max tokens is 10. So here you can see that we have the system message. That is our instructions, which we created. And I also have the task here. How do I return an item? That should be the prompt from the user. If I want to test it, I simply just go up to send. And you will see, first of all, that the content filters are false, which is great. There's no self-harm or hate speech here. If I go down, then you can see that in the message, in the content, we have the answer here. In the content, we have the inquiry. So when our system needs to pass this JSON, when we get the response back, this is where we're going to look. So this works fine. And what you might want to do if you want to get back here, that is to go up and save. Here, let's just call this one GPT-4o, maybe AI Foundry, like this. And what should the collection be called? new collection, and I can just say our collection or something like that. Maybe give it a better name if you want that. Now in this workspace, we can find this. Then we can always get back to it if we want to copy paste it once it works here. So I usually just make it to work here in Postman, and then I want to implement it in the systems. Let's also make the grok tree to work. It's again fairly easy. So here we will do a new HTTP. This will also be post. And actually, I think what is easier is to click the three dots, click duplicate, because we're going to use a few of these things. So click the three dots here where it says copy, rename, and let's delete the copy and say grok tree mini like this. We will need to change a few of these things. Let me first go to the body. Remember, we had a few different parameters. It looks almost the same, but we had set the max tokens to 2000 and the temperature was 0.01, which were the lowest. Otherwise, it will be the same. And this is nice because it's followed the same API standard, so it's easy to shift between the models. Then I just need to work with my URL up here. I can also find that in the documentation, but it is fairly easy. Let's change this to grok tree mini, and then we also need to change the API version. Let's go back here. Let's go to the grok tree mini. We have it here. Let's go up to view code, and here we can see it. Here we have the model grok tree mini. If you want to find the API version, then in this dropdown, pick the curl, and you can see here that we have a version called, and that is because you will need to use that in your request. So I mark this, say Control C to copy it, and then I will go back here. And we just do this. Then let's also test that this works. This is just Grammarly, another AI service. So once I send this, I want to again go down here and see that it correctly categorizes this as an inquiry. And we also have the reasoning with us. If we, for example, want to use that here, it will be of no use, but it's nice that this chain of thoughts is actually also given to us. Now let's implement it in Power Automate Cloud. So I open up a new browser tab. Then I go to make.powerautomate.com and say enter. Here let's create a new flow. So I go up to create. We could trigger this. So each time an email comes to our email inbox, we want to classify that email. Let's just do an MVP, so a minimal viable product. So we give our flow a name, Demo AI Foundry, and choose to manually trigger our flow. So first we will initialize a couple of variables with information. So I say plus, and then I say initialize variable. The first variable is the endpoint, and here we want to go back to either Azure or where it worked, over here. Choose to between the grok or the GPT. I just choose the grok, but it doesn't really matter. It will work regardless. And that's because we set it up. So here, this one we will call that endpoint. It will be a string variable, and down here you will paste the URL in. That's the endpoint. Then we click the plus. We search for Initialize variable here. Then we also want an API key. Let's give it a name. I give these actions names so they're easier to see what's going on in the actual flow. And they will just follow what name I give him here. This will also be a string. I go back and in the headers, find my API key and paste it in here. Then we also want the actual prompt. This is whatever message we get from the email. I'll just use a variable, but you can find, have a trigger from an email and then use that to get the prompt. So here I will say initialize variable. Here it is. This one will be the prompt, and this is to make it easier for us so we don't hard code things in. Then it will also get easy to update if we need to update the endpoint or the API key. So let's just say that your Copilot e-learning is great. Best regards, a customer, something like that. That is the value from the email. In the real world, this will of course be a little longer. So then we have these three guys here. And then we should make the API request that is to the Azure AI Foundry. So what I do here is to click the plus and find an HTTP. We find it down here. This is a premium feature. And again, I want to call this Azure AI Foundry API or whatever I want to call this. Here we need a URL. We created that up here in the endpoint. So simply just click this lightning and choose the endpoint. The method will be post. Then we need two headers. The first header will again be API key. The value, well, that will be the value that we give this variable here. So this is just like before. This is just like what you see here. And the next one will be content type. I could take it from here or write it again. And the value of that will be application JSON. And do like this. So now we just need the body down here. So what I will do here is that we will use the body from before. Although that this will be variable, and that is because this should vary. So we don't know the email yet. It's not how do I return an item each time, but I can just do like this, copy it, and then do this. So here we have the body. So this should vary, and we already know what this should be. This is the prompt, and right now the prompt is static again, but as I told you, you can set the trigger, so each time you receive an email, then this flow kicks off. Now let's go save it, see that we don't have any errors, and then we can test it. So we want to test if it gets that your Copilot e-learning is great. Best regards to customer. We want to test that it gets that right when it's come back. So then I can manually test it. I will run the flow. And what I want to see is that I have no errors here. So I want to see that I get a green check mark here once this is done. Perfect. What I can do now is to click the HTTP. And if I scroll a little bit down, I can show raw outputs. This looks like what we have before. And if I go into the body, into the choices, into the message, into the content, I now have this phrase. So if you want to build this in a new flow, set up a trigger, have this HTTP to perform actions. This could also be extract information from invoices. And then you want to pass this JSON. Now let's build on the Power Automate Cloud Flow. So we got the result back from the Azure AI Foundry. Now we want to do something with the result. Let's talk a little bit about what we see here. So to give you an explanation, I open up my notepad. We can get the body automatically with a Power Automate desktop action, but we need a little bit of JSON knowledge to know how to get the actual content here. This is the response that we get back from the large language model. So on the left side of the question mark, I have the actual email body. And here I say, go into choices. I do it like this. And then I want to say that this choices is an array. We can see that on these square brackets here and here. We only have one item in, and that is everything you see here. Actually, one more. So I want to say pick the first item, and in programming it's 0 indexed, so I'll say 0. Then I want to see the next level is message and then content. And yes, we could make this a little bit shorter, but I prefer this notation always because then it's easy to see what's going on and it's easy to change. So this is how we get the content out. Then I just need to add the body before here, and we can do that automatically. That's why I don't do this. So let's edit the flow, because now I want to, instead of manually trigger a flow, I want this flow to kick in when a customer sends me an email. Then if the large language model, here it's Grok, but it could also be GPT or DeepSeek or whatever model I want, categorize this, then I want to do an action. That could be sort the email like traditional inbox sorting. Here I just want to notify the management, but feel free to build on it yourself. I will show you how to pass this and how to work with it. So we need a more dynamic trigger. Go up here, click the 3 dots and say delete. Then we click add a trigger. Then I want to say not send. When a new email arrives, when a new email, make sure you pick the one from the Office 365 Outlook and not the Outlook.com, which you most likely don't use. So this, once I save it, will trigger all emails coming in. I received a fair amount of emails. I could receive an email while I record this. So let's restrict it to say I only want to look at emails with this in the subject. In the real world, I could probably just remove that and have this flow listening to the actual inbox and everything. But for now, we will just trigger if it's with the support in here. Then I also want to say in the prompt here, now I have your Copilot e-learning is great, best regards to customer. I want to use the body from up here. To use that, I want to convert the HTML in the email to text. I do that by saying plus, and here I want to say text to HTML. Actually, it was HTML to text, but it find it anyway. So here I want to say email body as text. I just give it a bit of a name. And then I want to say use this body from up here. And then we do like this. Because then in the prompt down here, we will not be static now. We will use on whatever email is coming in. So pick this one here. And then we get a result back. So we have the response, and now we want to interpret it. That was this JSON where we did half of the expressions before. Let's first just create a variable where that will be the email classification, where we'll have one of the 3 words. So I click the plus here, and then I say initialize variable. Do like this. And this one we will call email classification. Then let's copy this and also give it a name. It will be a string variable, and now we will create an expression. And that is because if I just click here in the dynamic, I can only get the body out. So to pass it, I want to go into the expression, take the dynamic content, and take the body. Let's go to our notepad. In the real world, I will probably just have written that directly in here, but for now it's fine. Now we have the expression to get out that word, whatever that is, will be one of the 3 words. We save that in the email classification variable. Then I want to ask, what value does this actually hold? I can do that with a condition. Here, a condition asks a question that can be answered with true or false. So over here, take this lightning, pick the email classification. If this is complaint, then we want to do something. What do I want to do? So I click the plus here into true. Here I want to start and wait for an approval. An approval sends an approval to one or more persons, and then a wait for their response. So here we can say start and wait for an approval. What I want to do here, I just want to say customer complaint. And here I want to and then I search for start and wait for an approval. So pick the first one here. And I first need to pick the approval type. So here I can say, I want to send this message to one or more persons, and I will just say the first to respond, then it will continue. Then we will have a title. So here I'll say customer complaint. Who will I assign it to? Well, right now we will just assign it to one person, but we could assign it to more person. And then I can say the customer. And then I want to say, who is that customer here? Well, we have that in the from the trigger. Maybe you can do it on a new line like this. That was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this and say from left this complaint. And then I will pick the complaint. We have that in a text format, so I'll go pick that. Then we will say save. Now this flow will trigger whenever we receive an email, once it's saved at least, whenever we receive an email with support in the subject filter. Let's go test it. We don't need to test it here, but then we can see when it kicks off, it will actually work without us testing. Then I will open up my Outlook and I will say new. Then I can say send this email to Anders. I want to include the support. I can say hi. I can say hi, support. I haven't received the course materials. That must be a mistake. In fact, I think it's a catastrophic failure or something like that. Have a good day. Kind regards, Anders. So here we triggered a bit, we put in some kind words, but it's definitely a complaint. Once I click send here, this will send to myself and it should trigger the flow. Usually it will take anywhere between 20 and 30 seconds before the trigger kicks off. So right now we see it here, we have the support trigger here. And then if I go back, then the flow will trigger in anywhere between 20 and 30 seconds. And then we will have an approval. An approval to do where we need to contact that customer. Now you see it kicks off. It registered. We send the email. Then this HTTP request is performing. Usually you don't have to watch this. This will just be done normally. I can also go here to the email classification if I just need to inspect that. And here this will be a complaint. And now we will receive a customer complaint approval. You can see I have it here in my inbox. The customer, Anders Jensen, left this complaint. I can choose to approve it or approve it with text. We could also have added something like, I need to contact this customer. And it also shows up in Teams. So that means that if I go here, then you will see I also have this as an approval here, where I can choose to act on this. This was quite advanced Power Automate with the AI Foundry APIs. Now you want to take the next advanced step within the Power Automate world. That will be to do UI automation with Power Automate Desktop. In here we will do web scraping and much more. The video is right here.